very common dilemma.
Is it?
And it's not just the counselling vibe, it's the general vibe of everybody on the planet. It's kind of, this is our default setting, and it's not working out very well for any of us. So hopefully this will really help you.
Okay.
So the counselling bug, first vibe is to ask, why do you feel it hasn't worked? When do you feel this started? Just think of meta-questioning as, these are all that question, just made in ways that dance around it in a way that the person doesn't feel pressured to know the answer.
Okay.
Because if they knew the answer to what you asked just then, why do you feel this isn't working, they wouldn't have come to see you. Yeah. Instead, we've blown apart that question, why do you feel it's not working, into when did it start? Can you remember a time when you didn't? How do you feel when this happens? Is it everything? You've made that huge looming question of why isn't it working then? I don't know, I came to see you to find out why. Okay, we're going to play the role of investigator, let's figure it out for you by asking all these little ones.
Yeah, okay.
So we can get to the core of it, because they can't process that out themselves. So we pick apart the reasoning, and we turn the generals into specifics, and the specifics into generals. And I have an example there. We'll talk about a trauma one we had, which was when I walk past the hairdressers down the road there, I freeze up, and I have to walk past it really fast before I can get into the course. I just hate going past the hairdressers. What does counselling head say to this?
What is it about the hairdressers?
Yeah, that's okay. What is it about the hairdressers? But as you see, they've just said, I don't know why.
I don't know why, yeah.
I don't know why, I just have to speed up and go. So we can't say, what is it about the hairdressers? That's the question they're asking us, bless them.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you have the sheet here, you can have a think. So, I don't know what it is, I just have to walk past it so fast, I can't stand to be near the hairdressers.
So what would happen if you were to stand and look in?
Oh, no. I don't even want to stay there. And by the way, are we dealing with a feeling or a behaviour?
A feeling or a behaviour, so that's a feeling.
Yes.
Okay.
There's a feeling.
So could you go down there, so that feeling, where do you feel it in your body? In your chest, yeah.
That's right. But the specificness of it is they don't feel this all the time.
Okay.
It's
so it's only when you go past the hairdressers.
yeah. Only when I go past the hairdressers. So when we're dealing with a feeling that only happens in a particular scenario,
So that's
the end goal is to be in that scenario again, but to feel different in the same situation.
Environment.
yes.
You're feeling fine now. Yeah, I'm okay now. It's just when I'm near the hairdressers.
Okay.
Keep going, detective.
So when did it start?
I'm gonna walk past the hairdressers.
Yeah. So it's just basically, that was a bit of a counselling one, that was, wasn't it? Sorry. Yeah. So some of these would say, so what can we do to make this better?
I'd love to.
You'd love to know that, that's why you're here.
That's good, it's solution focused, isn't it? So I guess I'd love to walk past the hairdressers without getting the jitters.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think also to bring in association and disassociation, because once and this is a real life person, we're on a course, once she was sitting here in front of us, she's fine. And it, as you've just pointed out, it's in that particular environment, at that time, at that spot, in that location, everything about that was somehow.
And by the way, is that general or specific? That location right over there.
That's more specific.
Yeah. So what are we doing with that specificness?
So so could we then look at you being here and feeling okay, but then putting you over there even though you're here safe?
Well, that would be the future pacing.
That's the therapy part. For
That's
now,
the therapy
yeah.
part, yeah.
For now we're testing what are we even targeting you. So if that's too specific, that particular hairdresser's right there, I walk past it and I get the jitters and I don't know
that's
what specific. So imagine you've got a microscope and it's zoomed in way too close. Right?
Okay.
Reel it back a little bit. What question would you use to reel that back?
Has it always been like this?
I've never seen that hairdressers before. It's my first day of the course. Which kind of leads you to think.
Yeah, I need to be thinking out of the box a bit more than that's what I'm feeling. I feel like I'm a little bit too stuck in my head with it.
And again, this is indicative of most of the population, that we have, as human beings, a morbid fascination when somebody isn't kind of behaving like us. Like, well, I can go past the hairdressers and I'm fine. So what is it about the hairdressers? How long have you had this?
I don't know. Obviously.
So do you remember a time when you couldn't walk past a hair? Well, you never walked past that hairdresser before, but that's what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no trigger.
It's ever since I got here.
Ever since you've got here.
Yes.
Do you feel that you've been here? Do you feel that maybe you've been here before?
Sort of feelings.
It's feelings, isn't it? Yeah.
It's like I saw a comedy with Catherine Parkinson as learning to be a therapist. It was the old guys, and she said at one point, she said, "I've got it," and she was challenging the therapist. "I've got it. I can do your job." And he said, "What do you mean?" She said, he said, "I don't understand why you're being so aggressive." And she says, "And how do you feel about that?" And he says, "Well, I'm just a bit confused." "And how do you feel about that?" She said, "Well, I feel confused and a little bit displaced and somewhat angry." "And how do you feel about that?" She said. It's comedy,
yeah.
You know, as if a counsellor always kind of goes
back to it, yeah.
Why do you feel this way? You're wrong to feel this way, so get over it. Sort of. That was the inference in the comedy, but that I can see with clean language skills of David Groth, how that kind of comes about, in that a person feels a certain way, and somebody else is getting them to explore the depth of that feeling and where it began, etc., etc. Though it doesn't always help in all circumstances.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. So,
one you might, you okay?
I think so.
One you might toy with, is it the hairdressers or is it the street?
Okay.
So, if we go along the lines of where's the cigarette, what would you do for the cigarettes and the world disappears? If we took the hairdressers off of that street, could you walk down it?
Okay.
Yeah, I could. It'd be fun. I just go down to the hairdressers. Yeah.
Okay, so then we start taking it. So basically, we're picking it apart, aren't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's an example of it.
Okay.
The other one might be, is it every hairdresser's or just that one?
Okay.
Yeah, I do kind of get the jitters. Any hairdressers I've walked past. But I think this one in particular is because it had this sign at the front. And you've gone back a bit.
So you've gone back a bit.
So it's not just that hairdresser.
It's the sign. So it's more to do with the sign.
Yeah.
So what was in? So would you then ask about the sign?
Can do. So pick something.
Okay. So could you say for what reason do you feel that the sign's impacting on you? So no, we're not. I don't fancy that.
How do you feel about it?
Oh God! This is terrible, isn't it?
And how do you feel about it?
Can you see where I'm coming from? I'm just really struggling with it.
How do you feel about struggling?
It's actually following my head. It's actually, I think I'm overthinking it. That's the problem.
How do you feel about everything?
If your sign was to magically disappear, how would that make you feel? Would you feel you could walk past?
You mean if it was like the same hairdressers but they just didn't have that sign in the front?
Yeah.
Ooh. Now you're better questioning.
The whole thing is you're getting the person to process, and you're absolutely engaged and totally focused on how they process.
Okay.
So, as Einstein says, you cannot solve a problem by the same thinking that created it. And basically, a person, including us, that's caught in a problem, they keep thinking exactly the same way about it and defending their position. And when they keep being asked how do they feel about it, they already feel that it's wrong or irrational, and now they're feeling somewhat attacked sometimes. But I can't get out of this, and you keep asking me how I feel, and now that might be making them a bit unsettled or angry. And you just asking that question, even though Kasper's talking about another person who experienced this, I could see, as you were asking the processing in Kasper's mind by how their eyes went and their demeanour changed. It's like, well, now you've got me thinking. That's what you're really doing. Oh, to the client who usually gives the staid answer, the same answer to every person who asks about it. I know it's terrible, I don't know where it came from. Now they're going, oh, now you're making me think. Your duty is to get them to process differently. You don't know the solution as the meta-questioner, but you are gently fascinated in how they're doing their problem. So you're not asking them how they're feeling to a great degree. You know how they feel. It's very evident how they feel. So you kind of want them to, as Kasper's saying, act like a detective with your assistance to say, oh, if the sign wasn't there, then would that be different? Oh, if it was a different street and a different hairdresser. Oh, it's about the hairdressers. Oh, I don't know. And that last question you asked, which was what? To get them to process differently? What was that last question?
I don't know.
That was something about taking the sign.
Yeah, if the sign wasn't there. Yeah.
You're getting them to process differently, which is pointing them in the direction of their solution. And it's like the creative aspect of them is going, ooh, I'm on, I know. It's a different way of thinking about their problem than ever before. And so they have to look at it and examine it somewhat differently because of the question that you've asked.
Okay, so sometimes it's turning it on its head a little bit, isn't it? You're asking it in a different way, that it's sort of turning it on its head, so they've got to think about it in a different way then. So. Okay, I sort of get that. It's just the specific question in that. Sometimes I think, oh, where am I going to go with that?
I want you to play with this.
Yeah.
I want you to be gentler and softer with this.
Okay.
Because the more you, you're not in any way preempting what you might think. You're not in any way ridiculing or mocking them or anything.
No.
You're genuinely being inquisitive and fascinated without being accusatory.
Yeah.
Because they're already accusing themselves.
Yeah.
So if you join in with that vibe, nobody feels good.
So it's the words, sometimes it's just the words that we use, isn't it?
You're really asking them a question that has never crossed their mind, because they're probably thinking to themselves, why do I feel this way about it? Is it something that happened before? I can't put my finger on it. I feel terrible right now. Why am I like this? You know, they're already delving into the feelings and not coming up with any answers. There's something about that shit. I don't know. And you come in with something like, so what if I took away the sign? That's like a, huh?
What if it was a different colour?
Yeah.
You get them, you take them out of that loop, you get them looking at it as you turn it on its head and get them looking at the stuff that they didn't even think about because they've been too focused on
The specific
what they thought the problem was.
Yeah. Okay.
So even if you're wrong, you know, no, it's not the sign. No, it's nothing about the people inside there. No, it's not about so-and-so did 10 years ago. The point is you've taken the focus off of what they thought the problem was, and that means they can start thinking about it in new ways.
Yeah. So they can maybe look at it and figure it out.
Yeah.
This is why we say hypnosis is focus.
Yeah.
It's not a belief system, it's focus. It's like we also say people are already hypnotised and not in a good way. This thing is making them feel this way. It's a sign in a hairdresser's. It's an illusion. It's not real. That whatever happened in the past isn't happening now, but for some reason, unbeknownst to everybody, including the client, that sign in that hairdresser's at that particular time on that particular street has sent me into a panic attack. How interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not going to ask how you feel about that.
Panic!
I'm going to ask you really must have hated the pavement work then. Just keep your head down as you walk past it. Terrible diorama and potholes these days. You know, you zoom in that microscope out to the point of humour sometimes, so that they can approach this, whatever's going on, in a new light, because however they're currently thinking about it isn't working. That's everyone they're going to see.
Yeah.
You've got to throw something at them that they did not consider before.
Okay.
It's also where they'd be using the IU shift, because a part of them would want you to take the scrutiny off them. Even though they've come to you for therapy, they'll say, well, all hairdressers are scary, aren't they? You know, when you this and you that, and you might have had a really bad haircut in the past and you this and it. Well, this isn't about me, is it? You know? But they do swap to the you, don't they?
So probably a really simple one would just be, right, is it every hairdresser's or just that one?
Yeah.
Specific to general.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of hairdressers give me the jitters, but it was just the sign in front of this one. I think it kind of took me somewhere, you know. You know what it's like when you do.
And if you want somebody to tell you the truth, remember they're not telling themselves the truth in a sense, because it's an illusion, and they're trying to protect themselves from it and just avoid it and all that. If you want somebody to tell you the truth, and to reveal not to tell you the truth basically, but to reveal the truth of this to themselves. If you want somebody to tell you the truth, you have to make the environment safe enough for them to do this exploring.
Okay.
And part of the safety, or it's safe for me to say anything, however ridiculous it is to use a bit of humour. Then a person feels safe rather than accused and trying to have to fathom their own answer, which is the reason why they've come to you.
Mm.
Okay. So it's about the sign.
It's about the sign.
Would you ask potentially next? No, there's no rights or wrongs, we're just picking apart reasoning.
So we said, so what would you say if the sign wasn't there? So could you walk past the hairdressers if the sign wasn't there?
I think I could, but I'd still feel a bit uneasy, you know, because it's hairdressers.
So it's not the sign then. So there's something more specific about the hairdressers, isn't it? Yeah. So could you ask something like, was it something specific in the hairdressers apart from the sign?
I didn't really look in, you know, I just wanted to get past it as fast as possible.
So is it something about the building itself, the way that the building?
Other than it was just hairdressers, can't stand them.
So it's,
Whenever I walk past the hairdressers, I just have to get past them as fast as possible, you know.
so is this every hairdressers?
Brilliant.
And you might start to realise that the person has very long hair. You start to put two and two together.
Yeah. Okay. So see, coming in now from a counselling point of view, would have been a very bad experience as a child with possibly a haircut, or
So how might you ask that?
in a so you go down the. Or has it always been like this? Yeah. Okay. So has it always been like this?
I think since I was young. Yeah.
Is there a specific time?
11:30 on the
And that's the wrong question, isn't it? Yeah, so what's the reason you think, what reason do you feel? Think, yeah. For what reason do you think you feel this way?
talk about thoughts and feelings are intrinsically linked. You can feel and deny the thoughts, and you can think and deny the feelings. But the two are intrinsically linked, which is why it gets kind of complicated like this, enmeshed as it is. Though it's important really as an NLP practitioner and a hypnotherapist to recognise those are two different things. One links to another. And if a person is being very much immersed in the feelings and the person's crying in front of you, and you keep going on about feelings, not you particularly, everybody generally, if a person has, oh, how does that make you feel? Oh, and really go, that's going to kind of make them feel more. Yeah. To the point where they're unreachable because they're so immersed in their feelings. So by then saying think, they're kind of almost forced to come out of the feeling mode to think. Yeah.
So it'd be that one really, wouldn't it? For what reason do you think it scares you?
Yeah.
That's it.
You go straight to it. It's not how do you feel about this.
Yeah.
We know it scares you. For what reason do you think it scares you? Oh, there was this time when I was young when my mum took me to get a haircut. I didn't want my haircut. She kind of took me in and they held me down and they cut all my hair off.
And then it usually goes into blame for him as well.
Yeah.
Because she didn't want to have to comb my hair every day before school.
And I think it's all hairdressers make me scared, but this one had the sign from the same one.
Oh, okay.
As it did. So we've gone specific. The rigidity of it's that hairdresser's on that street for some reason. It's the sign.
It's the sign.
It's the sign that happened to be the same place that this thing happened.
And so it triggered you because of the memory of.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
So now you know you're dealing with kind of a trauma or a memory.
Okay.
Rather than that hairdresser's down the street. Yes.
Okay. So then where would we go with that and then go into
Now you found it.
Found it.
You do the therapy.
The therapy, yeah.
See, meta questioning is not to solve it, it's to make sure you're aiming at the right thing. Yeah.
Okay. And I suppose you'd know then if when you go into therapy that you know that it was not quite right, if the subconscious, if you're going down the wrong path with the therapy, would you'd know, wouldn't you, if it's the wrong path? Would you?
How would you?
For the subconscious.
You're so
For the subconscious. Because when you're asking the subconscious and you're asking, are we dealing with the issue, not the issue, with...
This is where I need you to be specific. I can answer your question.
No.
Let's say I was doing hypnotherapy with somebody, Jenny, and I was going down the wrong route. How would I know I'm going down the wrong route? Is that what you're
That's what I'm asking.
So this very specific situation about the person.
So let's say you've glossed over, you haven't gotten to this thing happened 10 years ago and it's my mother's fault and you've just gone, okay, straight into the therapy. I'm going to give you some techniques to stay calm the next time you walk past that hairdresser's. Okay.
Yeah.
You've put the plaster on. Good example.
Yeah, but you've not got to the...
You'll see it in them because there's no, that's what it is. You'll see it in them because of, you know?
And the unconscious
got it.
does have a way of putting you right as a hypnotherapist. So let's say you were doing what Kasper's just defined. So the person's all nicely relaxed in trance. Oh yes, okay. And I'm going to take you into trance. I'm going to do the induction. Yeah. Relaxing plans. Yeah. Convince. Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. All that wonderful stuff. You go to the intervention, and you're just doing. I say just. It's a very powerful technique. You're doing control panel, so that instead of being at a 10 of panic when they go past the hairdressers, they're going to hopefully be at a 0. This is maybe a route that would go right. And let's say at that point, I guarantee that the unconscious would go, it's all my mother's fault. As a therapist, oh my goodness, where did that come from?
Yeah.
You can still deal with that in that moment, because you can say, oh, okay, so that's a different technique. Okay,
Yeah,
so
look at the program, the unconscious that's running there. It's keeping the panic at a 10 because my mum did this thing to me and I was still really mad at her, and that made me feel really unsafe and not in control of my body. So I'm keeping it at that 10. Thank you very much.
Okay.
You've still stopped doing the therapy and it won't work for some reason because that's why the protections have been running. We haven't dealt with. I need my autonomy. You're trying to take my autonomy away from me. No, I'm not bringing that 10 down.
So how would you deal with that then? So would you then...
Touch my shoulder, relaxing place. Okay, go back to the place where it's happening.
And I'm probably talking the third person. So this is kind of when hypnotherapy goes bad. So let's say that we've done that and the person says, it's all my mother's fault. And okay, a relaxing place, yes, touch them on the shoulder. So I would then probably say that Mary said that this situation regarding the hairdresser's home was all her mother's fault. Could you tell me more about that? Is there a situation which you go into when I touch you on the forehead to give me more information about that situation regarding Mary's mother? You'll do that. Now, remember, we've anchored relaxing place and we've touched them on the shoulder, so now they're calm. And they probably talk a little bit like a computer at this point. It was summer, I think it was 1973. Especially if you say, as I sometimes do, give me a report. So it's as if we're talking to the factual, diarised part of the mind that is actually observing from a distance their past self. Mary was dragged into the hairdressers, kicking and screaming because the mother was having trouble with a tangle in the back of her hair and the plait's gone wrong. And had cut a piece off with a pair of scissors right at the back of the head that couldn't be disguised. You know, various detail can come up. And then as a therapist you kind of go, as the detective, oh, it all makes sense now.
No, in other words, if you start doing the intervention therapy and you haven't touched on the real reason in the meta questioning, it will probably come up anyway, and you will be able to deal with it. / they'll come out of trance and think, I don't really think it's worked. But then you put them back into trance. Okay, that didn't work. Can you tell me anything that came up or you might have felt this didn't work? I started remembering that when I was little. So you might get to the end of trance and then they can talk about it. You might be mid-trance and it comes out. And
so you can put them back. So you can put them back in trance.
Put them back. We go back in the chair.
But for your sake and for making it as smooth and obviously as comfortable for everyone involved as possible, finding them at the questioning
is the
but
key.
then also you'll have tools to deal with it if you don't. But use the meta question to your full advantage because everything's so much better when you can get it.
Absolutely. That's all really wonderful and important to say, and particularly the point that you still don't know quite often what you're dealing with as a therapist, but you've got to start somewhere, and the meta questioning gives you a really good starting point. Though even if you haven't really got to the crux of the matter, if you can get the person relaxed and anchor relaxing place, that there's a part within them that realises, oh, I'm in a safe environment, I can just spill all this stuff. And that's when it starts to make sense. If you can do what's called a kind of gestalt approach, with some dissociation, as I've just mentioned, we start to talk in the third person. Mary has just said, for example, Mary has just said that it's all her mother's fault. Could you give me more information about that? When you get that kind of, it's called in NLP terms a fly on the wall report, a fly on the wall technique, that they're witnessing the child that they were in the past being dragged into the hairdressers, kicking and screaming, and sometimes held down, yeah? Witnessing it from a fly-on-the-wall perspective, which means they're engaged with the observer self, which is a Hildgard model of hypnosis, which we explore on the advance. There's this observer self that's kind of now getting a fly-on-the-wall perspective, that the value of that is not just that we're seeing the child that we were, so that's objective, the child that we were being dragged into the hairdressers, we're almost somehow also aware of the mother's experience that was really trying to get this lug out of the hair that's all kind of gone enmeshed and won't be untangled. So the mother, in desperation to get the child to school, cut a chunk of hair off, and now they've got a bald patch at the back of the hair, and they're going in desperation to the hairdressers because they don't want the child to feel embarrassed at school, because they've done, the mother might have done something wrong, and feeling that I've got to do the best for my child, I can't fix this, I better take them to a hairdresser's. They don't want to go, but I can't let them be humiliated at school, I must get them to the hairdresser's. And so the adult self of the person that's got this childhood trauma is now perhaps thinking, oh, my mother wasn't being evil and doing this to make me do something I don't want to have done. She wasn't invading my body, she wasn't doing it. Oh, I can understand that from the different perspective. And this is the beauty of hypnotherapy. It's like, oh, that was the past, and oh, things are different now. And, oh, I blame my mum entirely for that, but then I didn't want to blame my mum, so I cloaked that, and I made it all about hairdressers, and oh, this particular hairdresser's got nothing at all to do with that situation in the past. Oh, it's like all these realisations far quicker than you can say, just coalesce into one moment of realisation. And then they can start to become free of it, you know. And this phrase that we say, the past is over. And though there are treasures to be had in the past, learnings to be had, the past is over and no longer has any hold over you. Like, you're free to be terrified of any hairdressers you choose, and there's no real reason for you to be terrified of that one. You're never going to go into it, you've got free choice. You can choose never to have your hair cut again, or you could experiment with perhaps a different situation, get somebody round to give you some styling advice. You know, there's different things. So, yeah, if that makes sense.
Is that illuminated?
Yes. Yes.
So you'll never get it right from the first get-go. You'll never, no matter how much detail the person's giving you, until they sit in the chair and they say, I've just walked past that hairdresser's. Oh, I really like that idea of being a detective.
Yeah.